event business for Asset International's diverse portfolio of B2B media and research brands, including Plan Sponsor, Plan Advisor, AICIO, Global Custodian, and Strategic Insight. Mike's going to give a presentation for about 20-25 minutes, at which point we're going to open it up for Q&A. Please welcome Mike to the stage.
Thank you, everyone. I want to be very conscious of my time up here. Well, that was a great introduction. You kind of chipped away my first couple of slides here, which is good. But today, I really want to talk to you all about. Hold on a sec. I guess maybe my thumbs are on the button here. Let's start again. Over the next half hour, I'd like to talk to you all about how we are leveraging at Asset International, how we're leveraging our events to really drive integrated media sales, thought leadership, and really taking advantage of what we do at events to drive that process. First off, I thought to get started, I'd like to give you a little bit of perspective on who I am and what Asset International does. Then really talk about what are some of the revenue opportunities that are available. What are we talking about when we talk about event-led thought leadership? Then we'll provide a few examples, and then shift over to just some of the best practices, keys to success. So some of this was already covered, but essentially my background, I'm the events guy. I've been running B2B events portfolios for about over 20 years. And I actually just like to get a quick show of hands. How many of you within your portfolio of products have events as part of that portfolio? Good, I see maybe about 3/4, which that's good, because that's what we're talking about today. But my background, I've been building events. I've worked for Dow Jones, doing events for some of their product lines. I was in the enterprise IT space with IDG. And before that, I worked for what are lovingly known as Conference Factories, a company called Informa, which runs by the name of IBC and IIR in this country. So I've been doing this for a while. Now I work for a company called Asset International. And Asset International is truly becoming a market leader in both providing data intelligence to the financial services industry, as well as providing a number of key media brands to the markets. You can see on all these slides that a list of the logos of some of our key products, and Matt was kind enough to run through those. And just a little more about my perspective, the events that we produce, primarily we have a couple that work on our data side and our research side, but most of our events are really aligned with our media brands. And what that means is that we're kind of that third leg of the stool. There's a magazine for the brand, there's a website and a digital component, and we're the event side. There's certainly some other things, buyer's guides, research, things like that, but those are kind of the key components. The events I work on now, I mean, I've kind of run everything from small meetings to large mega trade shows. Well, maybe not medium trade shows, not the mega trade shows. But this business, we're doing a lot of annual events that combine both a conference component, a sponsorship component, and also some awards dinners. And these programs, everything we do is really buyer-seller centric. Where our job is typically to create an environment where we can bring in the top names in the industry, and then because they're there, then we can go back out to the vendors in the industry and really recruit them to become our sponsors. Sponsor-driven revenue is key for our business. And I'm telling you all this just because I know there's so many different ways that you can be in this business and generate revenues. That this is how we do it. It may align with what you do, and it may be a little different, but. Things for our business are going incredibly well. Over the last 3 years, we've grown our event revenue by over 80%. We've gone from being kind of a quarter of the company's revenue on the media side to now we're about a third. So things are moving up. We're starting to really help support more of the brands and more of the product engagement. And as I say at the bottom here, now a lot of our events are really taking the lead in the conversations with our clients. So with that, one thing we do all the time is we're always talking to our audience. We always want to know why are our sponsors at our events? So I'd kind of like to get a show of hands from you here today. I'll show you some of the research we've found, but from these 4 categories, a show of hands, what do you think is the top reason marketers sponsor events? Who thinks it's to generate new sales leads? Okay, I've got a few hands there. How about promote thought leadership? All right, nobody. Solidifying existing client relationships. Oh, always a favorite, that's good. And then the building brand and company awareness. How about that? Okay, so it kind of looked like about 33, 33, and 33% each, and no one picked promote thought leadership. Perfect. It's falling right into my master plan here. For IIS International, I mean, over the last 2 years, we've surveyed our sponsors, and the results we've come up with are very surprising to my eyes. Number one, not a big surprise, building brand and company awareness. I think anyone that's engaged in a marketing program, that's kind of a priority number one, is to build that brand. But then number two, coming in at a close second, is promote thought leadership. Wow, that's something that 5 years ago I wouldn't have imagined. And frankly, looking at the last two, generating leads and solidifying client relationships, to me that's always been the bread and butter of events. Why do people go? But our clients, they want more. And we're finding that out in every time we go out to them to sell them a sponsorship. They're looking for those speaking opportunities. They're looking for that way to get and engage their client. And so we've gone out and we've structured packages and programs that allow that. So what does it all mean? Clients are now taking events. They're using it to generate exposure for the company, to really highlight their key executives in their company, and again to promote thought leadership. And to me, those are the strategies that my counterparts on the digital and the print side have been really leveraging for years, and now it's coming to the forefront in events. So that brings up an opportunity. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities that we're creating on the events on their own, and that's a whole different conversation of how we're packaging our products and packaging our sponsorships at events. But today we're really talking about how we can leverage that interest in thought leadership, interest in that kind of exposure, to really push back out and help support the other channels. And that's what we're doing. We're turning the tables on our thought leadership through event-led thought leadership. And we're taking our keynote addresses, our panelists, any sort of conversation that our sponsors are having at events. We're translating that into other mediums, into sponsored articles, into video interviews, webcasts, white papers, you name it. And then we're distributing that and disseminating that through our other channels, through our magazines, through our websites, using all of our other assets, whether it's e-newsletters, direct email, social media, to drive traffic to those to get eyeballs on those sites. And it's working well. So you may ask, what's the difference? What's the big deal about traditional versus event-led thought leadership? And I think there's some key differences. If you kind of follow across the screen, in traditional, content is often developed from scratch. You get clients who say, I want to do something in thought leadership, and that's kind of the beginning of the conversation. When you start with an event, that content is already being created. They know what they want. They go to an event because they want to speak on something, and they're building that strategy. Same thing with their speakers. I can't tell you, I actually got an email this morning where a client was trying to do a sponsored article, but they couldn't get a hold of the experts, the thought leaders in their group. So they couldn't get it done. But in the event side, that voice is already established. You know, the executive is there, and they're ripe for repurposing in other directions. And then finally, and I circled this point because this is one of the key points that I think can really take your event-led thought leadership to another level, is that there's no context. There's rarely any context for thought leadership coming off the street. I mean, granted, there are clients that come in, review an editorial calendar, and will integrate their thought leadership into that editorial calendar. But oftentimes that's not the case. They come in and they just plugged into whether the website or the magazine with what their message they're trying to convey. And I'll show you some examples of what we do at IIS International, but the context is key. And being able to go to your clients and say that you're going to be in a magazine that we're highlighting all of the key important things that happened at our event, and we want you to be one of those key important things. And we can wrap it in there, and it becomes a much more valuable sale, and it becomes a much more well-trafficked, well-read piece. That is really what the goal of this whole thing is. So how are they sold? We'll show some examples, but the way we've been selling thought leadership through events is twofold. One is you can bundle up front and make a big fat sponsorship package that incorporates a number of different components that will distribute media to the other channels. Or you can really upsell after the fact. And both have their benefits, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So why event-led integrated sales now? And this kind of a recap of what we just talked about. And I've used some data. There's a great recent report from the Content Marketing Institute out there. So I have some quotes there, just kind of drive my message home. But interest in B2B events is growing. You can see the quote: for the fourth year in a row, B2B marketers overall have rated in-person events as the most effective tactic they use. Thought leadership is a hot commodity. 93% of B2B marketers are using thought leadership. Speaker content is ripe, as I said, and leverage that event buzz. It's something new. It's something that it's something that can take your message to a different level, take your client's message to a different level. And then on the financial side, we're finding some great things happening there. Event-led programs are really creating new incremental revenue streams outside of what you're selling your sponsorships. You have a revenue goal for your event, and then on top of that, you can tack on this additional revenue by selling these integrated packages. And interestingly enough, like the sponsors that we're working with, they're coming back, and in some of the aspects, they're coming back in and spending 10 to 100% of the dollars that they'd already spent on the sponsorship. On top of that, they're spending more just to get into these other mediums and other areas. Pretty compelling. And for the most part, we're finding that the money they're spending is new. They have a speaker, they have an executive who's speaking, and they're like, man, we get the chance to actually put them in the magazine now, or we have to put them on the website. We'll find some money for that. They're not coming back to us and saying, yeah, we'd love to do it, but we're going to have to cut, third quarter advertising to get it done. And then another quote from that survey, but 58% of B2B marketers plan to increase their content marketing spend. So with that, I'd like to just talk to you through a couple of the ways that we're doing it at Asset International. And then if we have time, I have a couple of, I've polled some of my friends in the industry to kind of get a feel for what they're doing. And then we'll wrap it up with some keys to success. But the first example I bring up is from our largest event that we host. It's called the Plan Advisor National Conference. Now this is an event where we go out and we attract the most sought after retirement plan advisors that are selling 401ks in the market. And then we reach out to all the vendors, all the mutual fund companies, all the 401k vendors that want to reach them. And we have them as our sponsors. It's an annual event, about 500 attendees. It's strictly primarily sponsor driven. And we sell our sponsorships for a pretty high rate. $15,000 to $90,000 is our typical rate package. And it's a high growth event. We've been growing that in the last 2 years over 50%. Movers and Shakers is the program we came up with. I mentioned that it's important to kind of wrap your event around the upsell, the thought leadership opportunities. We did it with this program we titled Movers and Shakers. That's the cover of an inset in a magazine. And we're highlighting the best ideas coming out of Plan Sponsor. We offer our sponsors the opportunity to work with our editors to transcribe their session into a one-page article, a profile. They can also sit down with us at the conference and do a video interview that we'll post on our site. Or we have a number that actually do both. And then we promote them through social media. And then the last note there, just the pricing that we use really aligns with our overall pricing for our magazine. We're not giving discounts to cram these things in our magazines. And frankly, sometimes we look at a premium. Here's just an example of how that looks in the magazine. Movers and Shakers, you can see that's a couple examples of the executives use their profile, really get their word out. And it's important to say this is actually packaged into our magazine that comes out after the event has happened. And it's built into the content that's already being written by our editors to highlight the event. So we have a whole profile of what the event's all about, and then the next page over is the movers and shakers. So we're engaging our audience. We're really leveraging the event and really making it a credible opportunity for them to get eyeballs and get interest in and be perceived as an expert. Just another look, this is our website. We have a whole thought leadership page, which kind of takes the same content from the magazine, plugs it on our website, promotes their logos, promotes their executives, just carries that forward. The thing on the right is our video interviews. We host those as well on the web and drive traffic to those as well. So how's this worked out for us? And we've really started this. 2011, we didn't have this. We were just out at our events selling video interviews kind of at random and doing a decent job. We got 6th that first year. And that equated to about 2.5% of incremental revenue. I mean, this is a multi-million-dollar event. And the incremental revenue I'm saying is basically on top of that, we got an extra 2.5% from that first year of selling. The next year we incorporated movers and shakers. We got a pretty good following. We raised that to about 3 times, about 6.5. And then this last year we grew that even more. We recruited one client to actually host a webcast based on their presentation at the event, and we're growing up to 11. And I think that's only going to grow further as we continue this program for years to come. So with that said, that's one of our more popular programs. One thing to note about that is it's an upsell opportunity. We don't host that, as I mentioned earlier, there's a bundled package or there's an upsell package. Bundled tend to work when you have a limited number of sponsorships, you have a high demand event or high demand group that people are trying to reach, and you really kind of consolidate that and make it kind of first come, first serve. I got a package thing, you're gonna have to buy all these extra goodies and reach out to your audience that way. For Pank, where we have 75 to 90 sponsors per event, it's not realistic to just bolt on another 50% cost so they can have these other packages. But what the value we've found in that is that the upsell later has its benefit. And the biggest benefit is you go to these providers, your sponsors, right when they're in the middle of crafting that content, right when they have their speaker in hand, they're pumping them up to get ready for the event. And you work on them to convey the benefit of taking that to the next level with these other channels. And it's a great selling message. It's a great time in the selling process to do that you really can't do when you don't have that benefit when you're doing it right up front. So a couple other examples. We also have integrated packages sold up front, as I described, for both our plan sponsor and a plan advisor national conference. Plan sponsor is one of our other leading magazines. We have a sponsorship package where it's a center stage CEO roundtable. There's only 3 spots, and we want the top CEOs in the business to come and be interviewed by our editor-in-chief. For that, we will give them also a write-up in our magazine, and we've bundled that into the product. Again, it's kind of high demand, low inventory product to push out to the market, and it works. We were able to really increase our overall price. It's sold out for the 4 times we've done it so far, and it's just a good product to be able to push to folks. And we've raised our revenues by about 25%. This year we're building an even more fully integrated package where we're taking our CIO, our Chief Investment Officer's brand, which these are the cream of the crop pension and endowment and foundation investors. We recruit them for an event, and we're selling sponsorships that include a pre-event webcast to a very limited group of sponsors. They get exposure at the event. We create a microsite after the event where we'll write a profile article on them, publish it in the magazine, put it on the website, also create a video replay of their session, put that on the event, and then drive traffic to all of that. And by doing that, we're creating the opportunity to basically increase our revenue collection for that opportunity by 85%. So 85% on top of what we would if we just had the raw sponsorship. So wish us luck with that, but I think because it's high demand, it's an audience that people want to hear, people are going to bite, and they're going to bite fast. And lastly, I just want to note that we have, it's not necessarily always about thought leadership. We do a number of awards dinner each year, and we go out to our vendors again and say, would you like to host a table at our event, host your clients, they're all receiving awards, come on down. We sell that, and then we go back to them and say, all right, you're hosting your client, why don't you give them congratulations in our magazine? We sell them advertising that way. We also, this picture here is last year we incorporated what we call a false cover campaign, brilliantly thought of, recommended by our CEO, Jim Casella. And we were able to go back out to our clients and say, listen, we're profiling these 5 companies as our planned sponsors of the year. Why don't you purchase an advertisement and we'll create these false covers and profile each one of them in the front of the magazine. It's very successful, and we're looking forward to that again for the next event coming up. So now I'm rolling right along here. I got a little time, so I want to just give you a quick sample of some things that are happening outside of Astor International, just that may align with what you guys are doing. So I talked to some of my friends in the industry. When you were in the events industry for 20 years, you get to meet a few people, and just got some ideas of what others are doing in this same regard. So this one enterprise IT media company, they're taking a morning roundtable that they're selling to their clients, and they're packaging in a white paper that's basically based off the content that they generate at the morning roundtable. Next, a medical education company. My wife used to work there. But they provide CME credits. They create these conferences where pharmaceutical companies are solicited to fund sessions, but they actually can't talk at the sessions, so they have to go hire some high-profile doctor to do so. And they've gone back and said, well, why don't we take that same content at the same speaker you hired, and we'll do a webcast after the fact so we can reach a wider audience. And it's a greater bang for their buck and their investment. And then finally, a friend of mine's in the material sciences business. And this is very different. In the scientific world, typically it's an attendee. The revenue model for the events is attendee-based. People pay money to hear top researchers provide insight in their research. My friend there, he's actually created, the revenue stream it's not sponsored, so instead of going after the speakers on stage, he's actually captured that content, created videos of it, and then put it behind a pay-to-join membership base. And that's working out very well for him. It's allowing him to repurpose the content and carry a revenue stream throughout the year. And then, with that said, I'd like to kind of touch on some of the keys to success that I've found, and it's things I think you need to keep in mind as you move down this path. First off is channel leadership. At Astor International, I'm the event guy, we have a digital guy, and we have a print guy. We all need to be working together. We all need to come up with a product, a package that really aligns with the goals of each group. I mean, because it's not easy, it's not fair to say, all right, the sponsors are they're going to have a half-price thought leadership piece, and you're going to have to take that and good luck. So you really have to pull everyone together, come up with a package that works for everyone, and then deliver that to ... the sales team. Again, at Astor International, we're very fortunate to have an integrated sales team. Our guys sell everything. They go out on the media side, they sell events, print, online, newsletters, whatever it takes. And that's very helpful. I've certainly worked for other companies where, and as you had mentioned earlier, Michael, or Matt, there's walls between the groups. And the event guys sell sponsorships, the print guys sell ads, and the digital guys sell banner ads. Either way, it's important that the team is on the same page to understand what the goal is and incentivized to do that as well. I mean, it's easy for us because that's part of their goal anyway, but in the other realm of these Chinese walls between groups, you'd have to work out a plan that really makes it a benefit to all and really kind of understand who's doing what, because they're going to be reaching out to different players, and they got to have their story straight, essentially. Which leads to my next point. Know your customer. It's in the sponsorship world, a lot of companies have a dedicated group that makes their decisions on, their marketers make their decisions on what events they're going to go out to, but they have nothing to do with any sort of thought leadership content in media and any of the other channels. But again, when you have this event and you have their key executives as the face of the content you're trying to get them to leverage, they're very willing to listen, and they're very willing to find the others in their group that you need to talk to drive this through to other mediums. And we found that takes a little time, takes a little digging, takes a little networking, but you can get it done. And then fourth thing is really thinking through your product offering. What type of package will work? And I've mentioned this a few times already, but bundled upfront programs, they work very well for high demand topics, high demand audience, and when there's a limited number of opportunities available. Upsell later work better for larger events where you're not going to charge this to everyone in the audience, but there's certain people that you think you can upsell along the way. And again, that also I highlight, because we've had great success with this at our PANC event. It's really an opportunity to come back to them when the content's baked and they get their executive who's ready to be a star of the show. You can leverage that to drive them to do more. So, and then finally, again, I've said this fast, leverage the value of the event. The event itself can really help drive credibility to what you're doing. You have people who attended the event that want to hear and read up on maybe the guys they didn't see in some different tracks or something like that. And then you have the rest of your audience who probably wanted to be at your event and didn't. And that's how they consume their media and through these other channels. and it's a great story to tell to drive them to your new thought leaders from your sponsorship base. And in closing, I think I've covered most of the stuff already, but I mean, opportunity knocks. You know, there's high demand for events right now. We're finding that the excitement to get sponsors to get speakers up on stage is huge. Thought leadership overall is just starting to take over what we're doing. You know, we're even on the advertising front, and it's your opportunity to leverage all those for your own launch pad. And with that, I'd like to open up to Q&A.
Folks, pardon me, we do have a small room, so if you want to project, you certainly can, but I will be walking around with a mic.
I've got two questions. One is, are your speakers, when you look at sort of your two constituencies of buyers and sellers, are they generally the sellers and it's sort of pay-to-play type thing in terms of the content they present?
Well, we have, typically our events are packed with primary market. So it's the attendees speaking to their peers. But within that, we've created components where we can incorporate the sponsor's viewpoint as well. Everything is under editorial control, so it's not as if, it's kind of like, well, just come. We don't have any, what I would call a sponsored session, except for, I guess you could call our keynotes. We work with our keynote presenters to really make sure they're crafting a message that's of relevance to our audience. But everything else usually falls into a panel or something where they're one voice on a larger group that's managed by our editors.
And those that are selected that are from the seller community, those are the ones you sell the sponsorship
Correct.
packages
Yes.
to. And then I guess the other question is, do you ever worry that with the integrated sales staff that you have, that a product line or if one of the channels gets a little harder to sell or a little challenged or under attack by the competition, that you lose the sales focus on that product that needs the attention?
Well, that's why we have quotas, and it's not one big fat quota. There's something to really cover through all of the different components. So, I mean, there's always something that's going to be a challenge to sell, whether it's something in my product purview of webcasts or events, or digital or advertising is always we're actually hanging in there pretty well with that, with the print ads. But thank you.
Okay, so for clarification, I'm a member of the IIE, and I've been studying the event industry for about 2 years to understand how it's being transformed. So just for point of reference, the shows and events you're describing, are they where there are exhibitors, booths, where people are showing off their content primarily?
They're typically conference-driven. So I mean, they're typically driven by some sort of a meeting structure where we're going through whatever really reflecting what our magazine and our digital editions are publishing.
Yes.
But to your point, a lot of them now, our larger events like the Plan Advisor National Conference also includes exhibit hall. To grow to the sponsor level we've incorporated that to give that kind of a flavor as well.
Right, so on a very transformative level, working with CES, AEM, the big giant shows, 2,500, 3,000 booths, what I'm seeing is they want to be media products themselves, 365, 24/7. They want to own the news of their exhibitors. So they want to be in the publishing business. And it's happening right now. And now in that context, you're in the publishing business. How come you don't take that tact where you can actually create a publication around the show where the show is actually a media product rather than have two separate pieces? Your media product, and an event that just happens to occupy some space and time.
Well, I wouldn't say that it's the way you're describing it is kind of like you wanted a magazine, but then an event in the magazine with a magazine inside the event, and no, just
No, it's actually it's simpler than that. The context is a transformative online destination guide source for all materials, everything that's happening at the event that you own, the publication owns. And it's happening right now, and the events are absolutely loving it because it doesn't cost the event anything.
Yeah. You're also talking about larger events. I mean,
Very large events,
and that's one of the challenges. I mean, we have 500 people that are in our audience for the Plan Advisor National Conference. Those people are generated or driven by the fact that they're subscribers in our magazine, they read our newsletters, they're on our website.
So this
it's really
is
kind
really
of an
small
integrated
events, not large events.
Correct. I mean,
with
they're not
1,000 exhibitors all looking to try and tell their story.
correct. But I would say that in a larger event in that platform, whether you have a magazine that's currently associated with that brand, or that's really what they're trying to get into, I still think the same opportunity is there. You know, those guys want to get in front of this. They want to get more exposure in front of the audience they're seeking.
Right, well, we're seeing it cuts out the wire services, it cuts out everybody else because they own the eyeballs at that point. All eyes go right to their destination in their own publication.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you kind of look at it even on the smaller level. I mean, we don't, press is not typically, it's not that it's not encouraged, it's not really, we don't get other press at our events because we are the press.
Just to be clear, it's not just the press, it's the attendees, it's the panels, it's anyone around the world who wants to have a sustained interest in knowing what's going on relative to the event, but 365, 24/7. That's the big transformation that's taking place.
That's good. Oh. Okay.
You talked a lot about thought leadership, and I didn't hear you talk much about attendees. Just curious about where you view the source of the thought leadership, and related to that, how much, if anything, are the attendees willing to pay for that thought leadership?
You say how much of what?
How much, if anything, are the attendees willing to pay? I mean, there's always a balance between attendee-driven revenue and sponsor-driven revenue, and I'm just wondering, based on the source of the thought leadership, what is the value add, and how much are people willing to pay for it?
Well, our events are typically invitation only, and they're qualified to attend for either free or a very low attendee rate. Our revenue model is really sponsor-driven, so to answer your question, how much is it worth, or how much, they're not paying much on the audience side. We really focus on our magazine, our digital sites, our newsletters is really to corral that market, corral that audience of eyeballs, readers, whatever you want to call them, and ultimately attendees, to put them in one place where the vendors in the industry can come and access. So that's our model for these types of events. And did that answer it?
Have you tried this in any other events that you don't own and manage yourself, that are in the industry, like an association?
Have I personally tried it?
Or your company?
I'm sorry, what?
Your group?
I'm not sure
in terms of this model.
We haven't tried it outside of our own product line. I can say that I working at IDG before this, we certainly had our own strategies to integrate our media and really incorporate that. But it's really emerging more now than I think we've had success with in the past. So.
You talked a lot about thought leadership. Help us understand sort of how you guide this content. I mean, in some cases it could be education, in some cases it could be new research, in some cases it could be benchmarking perspective. You know, I'm sort of interested how you're qualifying this.
Mm-hmm. Well, first off, I was kind of raising my hand because I define the term thought leadership based on what our audience is asking us for and what they define it as. Reading through, even the Content Marketing Institute would probably gasp at me suggesting that thought leadership is everything that we're producing for our clients. Thinking more that thought leadership is that true innovative idea that comes out, you know, once in a lifetime. But with that said, if you kind of combine whether content marketing or thought leadership, really getting your company's message out, that's what we're producing. And everything that we produce, whether it's an interview with one of our editors, or it's certainly any of the things that we produce in our magazine, one is designated as sponsored content. It's not designated as, it's not native advertising or what that the whole new trend of kind of hiding it in the mix. We make it very clear what it is. But then we also incorporate our editors. We ask them to really work with the clients to create something that's of relevance to our audience. And whether it's working with them we have a whole research group that does custom surveys for our providers in the market, or it's really just talking through what their session was, there's always an editorial touch to it. So, does that answer your question?
Got time for about 2 more questions.
How long before an event do you start marketing for the event? And then during that time frame, when do you see most of your attendees or sponsors signing up?
Well, it really depends on the event. Typically, we probably have a 4 to 6 month time frame to promote the event, to get started promoting the event. And it's for these annual events, we have a very strong following, so we get kind of that initial bump, people just jumping back in for the next year's event, and then we just continue our promotional efforts throughout. And we do that through direct email, through our newsletters, promoting on our website, things like that. Does that answer everything? Was that okay? Thanks.
Last question.
Do you see custom events either during the main event or subsequent to that being part of the integrated package where you're providing high-profile sponsors, direct engagement to a select subset of the attendees, and then perhaps custom events following the event to develop, as was discussed before, that continuous relationship through time?
Yeah, we've actually, in this market, we've shied away from custom events. And the main priority is that you find the clients, the sponsors are coming at you, they want to do something on their own. They want to have their own half-day event, and they want to talk about all the great things that they can talk about. And that kind of, to one of your points of, where is that editorial control, and what does your audience really want? And we tend to, probably 99 out of 100 times, we go back to the client and say, we're not buying what you're selling. We need to do something that's going to attract, we're not going to be able to attract an audience for that. So we shied away. I mean, at IDG, we used to do a lot of custom events, and we put more of a pressure on our marketing efforts to go out and say, we're going to get 10 chief information officers in a room, and they're going to listen to your content. And it was more of a challenge that way to kind of deliver on a promise that was written into the contract. And fortunately, that my heart rate has gone down, and we're not doing that at Astor International now. So. Well, thank you very much. Thank you.